Hello and welcome. This is Reality Remake from RealityRemake.com, and today we're going to be talking about the 9 best fighting games for the Oculus Quest 2. If you want to get into a fight, but not get any of the bruises that come with one, whether it's with your hands, or with clubs or swords, or even magic hands, there are plenty of great choices on the Quest 2 as far as fighting games are concerned. Here are 9 of the best. Starting this list off strong with Dragon Fist VR Kung Fu. As you might have seen in our other video about it, Dragon Fist VR Kung Fu is one of the hottest and most ambitious VR fighting games out there. In it, you get to choose from a wide roster of characters to play as and to fight against. Each has special abilities, strengths, weaknesses, and a variety of Kung Fu and non-Kung Fu fighting styles to pair your own up against. If you want to compare it to a VR Mortal Kombat, then we won't stop you. You are free to fight basically however you want. Go in throwing wild haymakers, or carefully palm strike and finger punch the pressure points of your enemy in order to weaken them temporarily. Throw stuff, or throw ninja stars, or throw fireballs. It's all available, and there are a lot of fights to be had in Dragon Fist VR Kung Fu. A ton of fighting and a lot of ways to experience it. Can't ask for much more than that. Getting even stronger now with Thrill of the Fight. We've previously spoken about Thrill of the Fight quite a lot on both our website and on this channel. It is a top-tier boxing game that runs on the Quest 2 as well as PCVR. Out of all existing boxing games, Thrill of the Fight is currently the frontrunner. Without stupid stamina bars and artificial barriers on how quickly you can move or how often you can punch, it's very true to life, and the only limitations there are your physical limitations. If boxing is your chosen form of combat, then there is no better VR title to pursue than Thrill of the Fight. It is not only the most intense workout in VR, but also one of the most rewarding action experiences to overcome. The opponents you face in Thrill of the Fight will challenge you, both in terms of strategy and in how far you can push yourself physically. When you get to the point where how hard each fight is, it's just not enough. There's always a setting you can change, or another difficulty level to go through. It really never ends. It takes such a long time to reach mastery, and after years of playing, I haven't beaten the game entirely on the hardest difficulty myself. If you've yet to get into Thrill of the Fight and it sounds intriguing, check out the beginner's guide on our website or the other videos about it on this channel. Next, a game you've probably already heard about, it is, of course, Blade and Sorcery Nomad. It has all those great TikToks and YouTube videos about mods and crazy gameplay, second in infamy, perhaps only to Boneworks or Bone Lab. Why? Because Blade and Sorcery, and by extension its Quest 2 counterpart, Blade and Sorcery Nomad, is supremely moddable, with everything from Halo guns to Star Wars lightsabers. It's also a lot of fun without any mods. There is a large variety of medieval weaponry to choose from bows to massive two-handed swords to glorified hunks of metal on a stick that can smash pretty good. The opponents you face are very well animated and attack and respond to your actions dynamically. Oh, and as the name also implies, you get some magic. Throw fireballs or send lightning from your hands or dangle someone upside down off a cliff with a gravity spell. There's a ton of sandbox fun to be had and promises of an RPG mode somewhere down the line. Now here's a sword fighting game you might not have heard of, Swordsman. If you like the idea of Blade and Sorcery, but you're more into the blade part than the sorcery part, then Swordsman is probably going to become your go-to Quest 2 sword fighting game. The goal of Swordsman is to be the best sword fighting game in VR, and they've done quite a lot to earn that reputation. With an RPG progression system and a ton of enemies to face, Swordsman certainly isn't strained for content, and these enemies are much tougher than you might be accustomed to. Each is heavily armored and parries and riposts your attack with precise moves and timing, more precise than in any other sword fighting game available. If you want an intricate fencing experience where every move counts and mistakes are punished immediately, then Swordsman is your game. Master opponents from Vikings to samurai and everything in between. It's tough, but it's so satisfying to land that perfect counter and slice open your opponent's exposed elbow. And here we are with another game that we've made a video about on this channel before. It's Battle Talent. Currently, it has the distinction of being the only free game on this list, and for free, God is it good. As we've mentioned before, it's also the most high fantasy fighting game that you'll find on the Quest 2 right now. There's all sorts of goblins, elves, and skeletons for you to fight with a variety of weapons and spells. There's a spear that spits lightning and a literal gun. That's not even counting the tons of weapons that can be modded in. Battle Talent is just as moddable as Blade and Sorcery, and the mod community is growing pretty quickly. Though besides being free, Battle Talent has a leg up on any other action game with its exciting maze mode. There aren't exactly a lot of RPG elements to go with a lot of these fighting games, and so Battle Talent shines because of the many interesting character building choices that you get to make in its mazes. You start each maze with a single weapon and average stats, but over the course of the maze, you defeat enemies and bosses and build and enchant your arsenal to make it more powerful. You also get upgrades to your character like extra health or magical damage. Make a powerful mage or a burly warrior or anything in between. What is a list of VR fighting games without Gorn? The original classic fighting experience. If you just want to shut off your brain and smash stuff for a while, play Gorn. This is a somewhat goofy but all around fun and colorful gladiator simulator, and it is a really good time. You and all of your enemies are obscenely buff and muscular, with huge arms and hilariously stubby legs that bounce up and down off of the ground. Blood splatters are colorful and downright pretty, and you can do absolutely horrible things to your enemies, from ripping off limbs to pulling hearts out. Gorn doesn't exactly have a lot of mechanical depth to its fights. Really, they're pretty easy to win just by flailing your arms around. It is an extremely fun game to just mess around in. It's not really about winning. It's about destroying the ridiculous muscle-bound puppets that come at you in as fun a way as possible with a huge variety of weaponry. While Gorn doesn't have a ton of replayability, for the laughs you get the first time around, it is more than worth it, and is a great example of what VR physics can do. Another game you might not have heard of, Gladius. Want a more serious gladiator simulator than Gorn? Well then come down to the Colosseum of ancient Roman Gladius, a gladiator simulator where you will definitely die horribly, and avoiding that death for as long as possible is actually pretty hard. All sorts of beings will try to kill you in Gladius, from lions to Gauls to tigers to Amazons, and you need to fight carefully to preserve your limited health while you dispatch them. With weapons from gladii to longswords, try to please the crowd as you dismember and slice your way through your enemies. Please the crowd and they will throw you gifts, more money for weapons, food to heal you, power-ups to give you immense power temporarily. See how long you can make it in the arena, and the longer you do, the more gold you get for upgrades. While Gladius is sometimes a little janky in its animations and executions, it combines the ancient Roman settings and its RPG elements delightfully. Here's a game that a select few, including myself, are very passionate about, Until You Fall. Until You Fall is an action fantasy roguelike set in an ancient kingdom overcome by a strange crystalline evil that turned your once proud people into monstrous versions of themselves. You, as the kingdom's last defender, must fight your way through them to defeat the evil that has infested your home. Since Until You Fall is a roguelike, you need to fight your way to the end without falling yourself, and pulling that off is the great hook to the game. Hit certain milestones to get more options for your arsenal, and further upgrade your weapons with better stats, using points that you get each time you fail. The progression is very solid for a roguelike, and keeps you coming back for another upgrade to your favorite weapon. Until You Fall's greatest strength, other than its progression, is its use of both your hands in its action combat, and its way of encouraging you to move. Some even say that Until You Fall is kind of a workout. Whether it is or not, it is very strategic and requires very good reflexes to get as far as you need to go to win. Mix and match the weapons you take in either hand. Some are slower, some are faster, and see which special abilities combine for the greatest effect. Until You Fall gives you some opportunities to plan and think about your character build, while also having loads of quick action. And for the final game on our list, Creed, Rise to Glory. Creed, Rise to Glory is the other good boxing game on the Quest 2. While not as realistic or intense as Thrill of the Fight, anyone who is still craving more boxing action should give Creed a look. Here you take the role of Adonis Creed and fight your way to the top of the Rocky franchise, one opponent at a time. It is similar to Thrill of the Fight in fighting style, but falls short of being the more true to form experience that Thrill of the Fight is. You don't need to punch as hard, you don't need to duck and weave as much. The whole experience is more toned down and artificial feeling. The opponents you face move in set patterns. You are encouraged to move in a certain way and punch certain points as well. The game will interrupt with a sweet combo to slow everything down and tell you to punch certain pressure points on your opponent. Creed Rise to Glory is a more arcadey VR boxing experience, but it's still fun if you don't mind being interrupted every now and then. Compared to Thrill of the Fight, Creed can be a bit of a letdown for those who want a very realistic boxing experience. However, Creed looks very good and is a fun romp of its own, especially for those who want to box in VR. Well, that's it for our list of the 9 best fighting games on the Oculus Quest 2. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like or a comment. This has been Reality Remake from realityremake.com. Have a good one.